Oh, thank you, Brian. Have you seen Andre, by the way? He's supposed to be on the stage. He was here like a second ago.
Andre?
Oh, let me send him a notification. Went past. Oh, there you are. You got my notification? Hey, he's over here. Okay. Yeah, so guys, we're here to talk about notifications in Backstage. Andre's working on Backstage all the time. That's literally the only way to reach him. Can't reach him on Slack, can't reach him on email. Yeah, it's always working on Backstage, aren't you, Andre?
So I'm Andre. I'm a customer success engineer at Spotify Backstage. I'm a community plugins maintainer. I'm also a docs maintainer. I think another fellow docs maintainer is here as well. I'm doing tons of stuff with Backstage, helping out on Discord. Like Tika mentioned, I'm always talking about Backstage. But when I'm not, I'm hanging out with my 10-year-old Boston Terrier French Bulldog named Bailey, who's the love of my life.
Ah, cool. I'm Tika. I work with Andre at Spotify, also work on Backstage. That's how we met. And we've been collaborating a lot on this talk and other stuff backstage. I used to be an engineer, now I'm an engineering manager. It's been kind of a fun ride, like trying out this new role. And yeah, through the process of like new responsibilities on the team, I've had a chance to kind of explore notifications backstage, which is a new feature that got shipped, like coming and going. Okay. So yeah, we're now that I've learned so much about it, I thought we'd talk about it and share it with the community if you already haven't seen it. So that's what we're gonna dive into today. Okay, so how's notifications work in Backstage? So if you take a look at this architecture diagram that I tried to put together to explain it as best as I could, but technically, like obviously, like you guys know about Backstage, you've got backend plugins and frontend plugins and so on. So notifications is also built with a backend and a frontend. And any backend plugin could create a notification. We'll take a look at more like what that looks like. So maybe just bigger picture now, having a look at how a notification would get generated. A backend plugin would be like, okay, I want to create a notification. It sends it to the notifications backend. That gets saved in a database that's associated with that notifications backend plugin. And then you also have another thing that's an add-on, not necessarily required for notifications to work, which is the signals backend. If you have the signals backend installed in Backstage open source, essentially the notifications backend would emit a signal, and this is done via the event bus. It just publishes it as a form of a signal. The signal backend knows, and it looks for an event of type signal, and then essentially picks up those events from the event bus. And then it would push that signal to essentially for all the users that match the logged in user's user ID, and send that to the Signals front-end plugin in your Backstage instance. So now the Signals front-end plugin, you've got other front-end plugins in Backstage that could essentially subscribe to specific topics. So you could end up publishing signals with a specific channel ID. So if you are sending signals and it could be for multiple different reasons. And notification is, let's say, a type of a signal. So you could have a notification channel on which notification signals are published, and various front-end plugins could be subscribed to signals of type notifications. And that lets you end up creating real-time notifications on the front-end plugins UI. Front-end plugins could also go and fetch specific notifications using a notification ID that gets created when the notification is first created by the backend plugin. And there's also a notification front-end that exists in Backstage today, through which you can see a list of notifications. So this is kind of like the broader architecture. Simultaneously, you can't just. It's not just that you can see these notifications on the notifications front end, but you could also create like these custom processors to send it to other third-party applications. So there's a couple of built-in processors. You've got a mail processor and a Slack processor. So let's say you didn't want these notifications to just show up in Backstage. You could also email specific users or specific Slack user IDs. So that's like a broader architecture. Additionally, I'd like to mention that it's not just the backend plugins within Backstage that can create these notifications. You could also have external services that use the API endpoint that's exposed by the notifications backend to create notifications. Just the bigger picture, but as we kind of dive into this more, you'll kind of see how this whole thing works. Okay, so with that in mind, oh, wait, Andre, do you want to tell them about how this was conceived?
Yeah, sure. So the notification system sort of started many moons ago, but I think the timeline is roughly around 2023. We introduced the BEP process, the Backstage Enhancement Proposals. If you go into the main repo, there's a BEP folder, and they're all there. And the notifications was the very first BEP that we went through, and that's where you can see sort of like the evolution of the architecture and read about how it was sort of defined. What's interesting about that is it was one of the first, or the first, totally community-contributed core functionality for Backstage, where it wasn't the core maintainers building that functionality, and the BEP process really helped us build that out. So go take that a look if you want to see the history.
Yeah. This is available in our Backstage open source repo, so just go into notifications, find notifications there. You'll see the architecture that I outlined as well, plus the history behind it and how it works. Now let's dive into what it looks like today in the open source. There's a couple of places that you can already find it if you're taking Backstage open source. So Announcements is a plugin that's available, part of the community plugins repo that we talked about a lot. I still remember we talked about it a lot, the last KubeCon conference. So yeah, just looking a bit at how the code would be written if you wanted to generate a notification. So within the Announcements plugin, you've got this method to send an announcement notification. So an announcement would consist like maybe a title, a description, a message that you want to broadcast to a bunch of recipients. So you'll see that there's a notifications.send. So there's a notification service that you can use to send the notification, to create it, send it to the notifications backend, and then to persist it in the notifications DB. So you will see that the recipient's type is broadcast, which means that when an announcement is created, you actually want it to be broadcasted to every Backstage user who hops on a Backstage. So that's what that means. And there's a payload of like a title, description, and the link to the announcement within the announcement plugin. And then the second bit is where, there's this bit where kind of that an announcement notification gets sent. So within the announcements plugin, essentially, when you're creating the announcement, you will see a checkbox, and Andre will sort of demo it later. You'll have a checkbox where when you're creating the announcement, you can decide that, hey, I want a notification sent out for it, and if that is checked, which is why there's this condition, if announcement notifications enabled, for this notification to then get created in the backend. So we also talked about the signals backend. So how does that work differently compared to notifications, right? You could publish it similarly to how you would build a notification. So you set a channel, you create a channel that front-end plugins could subscribe to. The channel ID is signals channel announcements. And the type is, again, broadcast, because this specific signal is applicable to every user ID. So if I go back to this architecture diagram, what I kind of said was the signals backend is going to push a bunch of signals that are applicable to a specific user. So if the recipient type is broadcast, it means every user should be able to see this specific, or like know about this specific signal. So that's what that's about. And then there's in the message, it's similar to your notification payload. There's a bunch of data there, metadata that you're going to send as part of the signal. And the screenshot to the right, this one is actually written as part of the announcements plugin. What that does is so this front-end plugin, the announcements front-end plugin, is the one that subscribes to any signals that are arriving over the signal channel, right? And then it's going to see if there's like a new announcement that has come through. Is there a new announcement signal? And if that exists, it's like pushing this new signal into unseen announcements. This code is actually part of a component called the announcement banner. So what that does is, announcements front-end plugin actually exports this announcements banner, which every time it sees a new signal, it generates a new banner. And you could actually use that banner in any other front-end plugin you wanted. If you go to our demo Backstage website, it will actually show up on the homepage. And Andre, you want to go ahead and show what all of that looks like?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, live demo time. Just starting things up here. All right, so just a little lay of the land. This is just like a create app instance of Backstage, which includes all the notification bits you need. You don't actually need to install them if you're starting from scratch. I've installed the announcements plugin, and I've got the homepage set up. You won't see it here, but I have the announcements banner will show up in this sort of like white space below the logo. So if I go into announcements, we're gonna hit new announcements, and we'll do a title. Anyone who goes to the community plugin sig knows the pain of Andre's typos, so bear with me here. Oh, I actually did this without typos. Yay. Cool. All right. So you can do on behalf of, I don't have any options. This would be like if you wanted to be on a specific group that it would be coming from. In my case, that's not important. I'm going to flip on the send notification, and I am going to hit submit. Before I do so, I'm going to move a little quick. You might miss one of the toast notifications that's here, but we're doing a few demos, so you'll see more of those as we go on. So if I hit submit, and then I go back to my homepage, now I have this wonderful banner, and this is driven, like Tika mentioned, by the signals feature. If you're not using the signals feature, it's a manual refresh, so you'd have to go to the specific page and hard refresh it to see the banner, or go into the notifications UI to actually see the actual notifications. You wouldn't get the sort of real-time banner in the toast aspect of it. Awesome. So we did our demo.
Yeah.
And now we'll let you talk about scaffolder actions.
Yeah, so another place in the open source that you could find notifications already integrated is scaffolder actions. So obviously when you're creating a template, you create a template and you end up running it if you've used a scaffolder at all, and you probably want to know when the template has finished executing. And what's a good way to know about it without having to wait to see if the template is finished and come back and check on the status is by getting a notification. So yeah, that's the integration that's built. It's actually built as part of the scaffolder backend module. That's using an extension point that was built in the scaffolder plugin. So some of the code there, you already recognize it based on the example that we saw before. But if you look on the left side, that's actually part of the template YAML that you would write when you're creating a new template. And you'll see that you can add a step to send a notification. And again, the recipients here, like you have a way. Like if you actually go into the documentation, it will tell you how you can configure these notifications for the scaffolder. So in this case, the recipients are a broadcast, but you can set it to a specific entity that you want to send the notification to, which could be like a user or a group, for example. And there's a way to also make it optional. So there's an optional attribute. So that way, if for some reason the notification fails to send, you're not completely failing that template run. So you can set that as an optional thing and not have to fail the template on it. OK, you want to show that real quick?
All right, demo part 2. All right, so back into the same demo environment we had before. In this case, I've just taken the demo template. If you go to demo.backstage.io and go to create, it's the exact same template. I've just registered it here for this demo. So we're gonna pick this one. It wants my name, so I'm Andre. Light or dark mode, yeah, I'm just gonna pick light. I'm interested in a few topics here about software templates. Cool. All right, where do I want to put this? Well, I'm going to put it in my GitHub org. Whoa, typo. And what am I going to call this? Notify. I haven't picked that yet. Cool. Review. All right, that looks good. And I hit create. Now Backstage is going to do all the things that I want it to do. It's pulling down some code, publishing it to it, enabling GitHub pages. And there we go. We get my little notification, and it's telling me, hey, it has been completed, and I can see the template executed. There might be times where we want to know a template is finished, but where like probably real world cases might be you created a pull request and you have a different team that needs to review it, and like maybe it's an infrastructure thing and you need to tell the infrastructure team, hey, like I need you to approve this pull request, and they're not really part of the flow, so you could have that ping them. And this is where the whole idea of processors going to a third-party system like Slack or email are really beneficial, because then those SRE engineers or infrastructure people don't need to sit staring at Backstage waiting for notifications to come. They'll be like, oh, cool, like Bob ran this template and he wants me to approve this PR, and I can go off and do it because I got that Slack message. Awesome. Cool. Moving on. So at Spotify, we've implemented a bunch of things with our internal Backstage instance that we've had for ages, and so I'd like to just talk to you all about ways that we've done that with some of our internal custom things that we've built for our needs. And one of them is Soundcheck, which is our scorecarding plugin that we use to track, migrations and different things. And so internally at Spotify, we've taken advantage of notifications to help us keep track of campaigns we've set up to migrate to new things like new versions of Java. And so that's another case where we're meeting our engineers where they are, instead of making them be in Backstage all the time. When things go bump in the night with their Soundcheck scorecarding, they'll get their notifications in Slack, sort of driving them forward. Same thing with like when tracks are recertified, and if they go up or down, they get that notification. And same with checks. Checks are like a smaller component of that overall scorecarding. And so again, great value that we get out of that. Instead of an engineer living and having to monitor Backstage for this information, they can just get it, work on other things, and only have to tackle it on demand.
Yeah, and besides Soundcheck, we've also added notifications to our Skill Exchange plugin. So this is a plugin that we use essentially where we create hacks that we want to post about, like, oh, I've got a great hack idea, I'd like to collaborate with a bunch of people. Maybe we post that about it. Sometimes we have embed opportunities on other teams for where you can just go to a different team and try out something new for a little while. Or like mentorships, for example, and we've got notifications built in. Like, let's say you express interest in joining somebody's hack or joining like an embed position that's open or a mentorship. There's Slack notifications that come through that say that, hey, like, we've already sent the notification to the person who created this hack that you're interested in collaborating, so they'd see a Slack notification about it, which was on the previous slide right there. And then, so yeah, just an example that I tried out with Andre yesterday. And then, yeah, and for embeds and mentorships is a screenshot of something that shows up in the notifications UI for when you've expressed interest in like someone's mentorship opportunity. And with that, we also thought, like, although this hasn't been implemented yet, we were thinking that, oh wait, like there might be some cool things that you could begin integrating notifications into, which Andre will show you about.
Cool, yeah. So one of the ideas that like kept coming to us as we were having conversations together over fikas was like, wouldn't it be great if we got information like when things happened in the catalog? And we actually had a coworker, shout out to Frebin, who's one of the catalog maintainers, built this cool experimental plugin that shoots off events when things happen with the catalog. And there's actually a related BEP. Come talk to me about that after our talk. And so I built a quick demo, sort of like showcasing some additional value in a more experimental way. So we've got that plugin running in the background. It's busy like listening to events for the catalog. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go into the classic catalog import. I'm going to import the demo site YAML. The demo site has a component and an API, so I should get essentially 2 notifications for both of those being registered in the catalog. So if I grab that YAML and drop it in here, boom, and I'm going to hit analyze. Cool, it detected things, it's happy. I hit import, and I could go view another component, but cool, there's my notification. I can see the demo GraphQL entity was created, and I can see the Backstage demo component was created. So we were able to get these events, and so that's like a very simplistic view of it, but there might be more further like nuance and interesting ideas that could be built on top of those with the notification system doing different things based on those events. And I would say at the heart of the notification system is the idea that like it works really well if you're triggering events. So if you have something that's already firing off a lot of events that are valuable that you could be passing on to people, then that's an opportunity to tie in the notification system to do things, to do further things with it.
Yeah, so like Andre said, there's tons of potential to how you could be using notifications and making them truly valuable when you're using Backstage. And some of the other ideas we came up with, which we're hoping like we can hack together in the future, is that one of them is like we have the GitHub Actions plugin. Just imagine if you could see the status of all your builds, like knowing if your deployments failed or they succeeded, and being able to get Slack notifications off of them, like straight into your Slack, and that being added to GitHub Actions because it's already hitting those GitHub APIs and getting that data for you. And another shout out to Frevin, because he built the scheduler API, so any scheduled jobs that you've created in your plugins, a way to be able to monitor when those jobs are running and like what their statuses are. The API, you can poll it to get those statuses, but you can also hook up notifications into it so that you can get those statuses to wherever you are, right? Like if you prefer Slack notifications, you can get it in Slack. If you're someone who actually lives and breathes Backstage like Andre, you can get them in Backstage. There's so many ways that you can get it integrated. There's tech docs. So imagine if there's like on-call documentation that you're updating and you want your entire team to know about it. And you could send that notification out to your team and they can see that, hey, this important doc has gotten updated and now I see those updates. Org changes. So many times that there might be leadership changes that are happening. Maybe your org gets renamed, like the squad changes, its purpose changes, now there's a new name, maybe a new team member joined. Imagine if you get notifications about this via Backstage. And there's a way to do that. So if you've got some way to represent your organizations through group entities or whatever, set up notifications, add that in there so that you can see those live changes come through and be up to date on them. Those were just a few ideas we came up with, but I hope you can sort of see the high value that this feature delivers. And so if you've got stories, of how you've integrated with notifications in OSS today, like come talk to us. We're at the booth. We're also doing like a ContraFest thing on Thursday. So if this is exciting to you, come contribute to notifications on Thursday. We might get hacking together a little bit. But in the meantime, any questions you'd like us to answer for you?
Thought about how to handle duplicate notifications, or I don't know what I mean by that exactly, but the idea that like maybe GitHub sending a notification to someone and then now Backstage is going to be sending them the same notification.
Yeah. Again, I guess that completely depends on how you set it up, right? Like if you end up using Backstage as your source for sending these notifications, you probably want to disable the GitHub ones because you don't really need that anymore. Yeah.
Also to tie into that, we could potentially also consider looking at the GitHub settings, right? So like if we've got it enabled to be monitoring for those, maybe we look at what users we're sending out, and we look at their GitHub profile and go, oh, they have that setting disabled, so like we won't send them stuff. I mean, I'm saying that easier said than done, as we know, but.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, if you're too shy to ask now and you want to ask us later, we'll be around. So thanks for coming and
yes,
hanging
thanks
out
everyone.
at the talk.
Really appreciate it.